Hey there, and welcome back to another Sonya Maya psychology episode. If you like sex education, make sure to hit that like and subscribe. Turn on bell notifications. I'm a psychologist and a sex therapist who loves bringing more awareness to stigmatized topics such as penis size. Today, I want to talk about 3 reasons why penis size does not matter as much as you think it does. And even though there are some people that do care about the size, and at the end of the video, I will share some people's perspectives that they share with me on Instagram for people that do actually care about penis size because I'm curious. Let's get right into it. Number one, more than half of men think that their penis is too small. And I've talked about this in both of my videos about does size matter. There was a study that was done that found that men who think that their peen is too small, more than half, about 86% of their female heterosexual partners actually thought that they had a nice size. They were satisfied with their partner's size. So it goes to show that the insecurities that men have about their penis size is very much related to societal issues. I was listening to a really funny comedy special recently, and the comedian said that some men measure their penis size with a dollar bill because of like being able to curve it because it's exactly 6 inches and the average peen size is between 5 and 6 inches. That sounds so that sounds really dirty to me because money is so dirty. So let me know below if you guys have done that because I just didn't know. I thought people used rulers. But if you're doing that, I hope you're not letting it touch your Johnson. So yeah, number one is most people who actually have sex with people with penises don't care as much as penis owners do. Number two, you have so many other tools in your tool belt besides your penis to work with. You got your hands, you got your mouth. And if you are a giving lover and you educate yourself about what your partner likes, that's so much more important. And that goes into number three. So, number two and three are pretty much the same kind of topic, honestly, because yeah, lesbians have more orgasms than heterosexual women. And they don't have penises. They can definitely attach one to themselves, right? So that goes to show that as long as you're using other tools in your tool belt, then that's great. I also talk about this all the time, but most women and vulva owners are able to have an orgasm and intense pleasure mostly from their clitoris, from the outside, externally. Therefore, a penis is not needed in a lot of cases if your goal is pleasure instead of penis and vagina, you know what I'm saying? Procreation or whatever the fuck. Because, if you've been watching my videos for a while, you definitely know that I don't think sex is for procreation only. I love pleasure and connection. Hell yeah. So, yeah, number three, reciprocity matters so much more. I talk about this a lot, but a lot of women will report this, or vulva owners will report this. Having a good lover means somebody takes the time to get to know you personally and cares for your needs. There's a lot of reciprocity there rather than I know how to make every woman come. That's ridiculous. They probably picked that up from somewhere. It's another toxic masculinity situation. And women who have taken the time to learn about their bodies and understand the female anatomy, for example, will understand that, are most likely to understand that unless they're in that 1/3 of the population who are able to have an orgasm from internal penetration, the way that they experience pleasure is going to be from the outside anyway, which doesn't involve a penis. And even if you have a penis owner partner, a partner with a penis, the first couple inches of the vajayjay opening happen to have so much nerve endings, which is why I often recommend shallowing, where you put the penis in just a little bit and really focus on those first 2 inches of the vajayjay canal because there's so many nerve endings there. So if you have a small member, you can definitely do that, And if you need to penetrate her with something else that's longer than your Johnson, longer than a dollar bill, perhaps, or around the size of a dollar bill, then do so. Lesbians do it, bisexual women do it all the time. You know what I'm saying? I am curious to see what people say on my Instagram about why size does matter because I do have to admit, if you enjoy penetrative sex more than getting your pussy eaten, etc., that's okay. Maybe it does matter to you. And it does feel really good sometimes to have a long schlong in there. I'm not going to invalidate that. I will argue, though, that most women who understand their sexuality, who've taken the time to learn about their nerve endings and all of the different ways you can experience pleasure, it's less likely to be as important to them compared to women who maybe have been socialized to think that sex is this one thing that has to have a long penis, you know what I mean? So I find it problematic to think of it that way. So that's why I'm trying to destigmatize this. So yeah, let's see what people said who do say size does matter. And by the way, if it matters to you, that's totally fine. different strokes for different folks, quite literally, okay? I don't think there's anything wrong with the topic of hair versus bear. Some people like hair on their food, some people don't. I personally don't like hair on my food, and we can take a moment to laugh at that because I find it to be a funny comparison. It's kind of like if you date men or people with beards and maybe you don't like a beard as much because when you're kissing it's kind of scruffy. It's kind of similar to not liking a vulva that has a lot of prickliness because when you're kissing it, it's scruffy and it might hurt your face. I don't know. But there's nothing wrong with that as long as you're communicating it in a respectful way because it's not about what you're saying, it's more about the delivery. So, yeah, let's see what people had to say.
As you can see right here, 68% of people who answered my question on Instagram said that size does not matter. I have to consider how this makes perfect sense because most of the people who watch my videos are pretty educated and pretty smart when it comes to the bedroom. But of course, I know there are people out there that believe size does matter, and unfortunately, I didn't get any helpful insights from people who think size does matter when I asked on my Instagram story, so that wasn't very helpful. So where might be a good place on the internet to read some of these people's perspectives, the ones that challenge my beliefs based on research? Well, Reddit, of course. Let's read some Reddit comments that disagree with my perspective that size usually doesn't matter, so we can get a full picture. Let's see if they can change my mind.
So this person says, size matters. Yeah, I said it. People tell men that size doesn't matter too much. Here's the thing. If you only ever had one lover, maybe that would be the case. But think about this rationally. Okay, I'm going to think about this rationally. Let's say all other things are equal. Skill, virility, stamina equal. Between a man with a 4.5 inches and a man with a 7.5 inches, you're going to tell me it would make no difference as a deciding factor? Lies. I mean, I've had lovers with average and below average size penises who were fine lovers. It will never preclude a man from being a great lover. Conversely, I've climbed a few mountains that weren't worth the view, if you know what I mean. But I've also had skilled lovers with both small and large. With everything else being equal, there is a difference. Okay, I can see this person's point with all things being equal. Okay, but we do live in a society where there are a lot of people out there who do not care for reciprocity. So if we're thinking about sexual satisfaction as a whole, with all things considered, it's not very realistic that all other things would be equal, given that there's such a large big O gap, for example, meaning that you've probably heard me talk about this before. Heterosexual men finish the most, I think it's close to 90%, whereas heterosexual women finish closer to the 60%. Men are usually having more orgasms and pleasure, and a lot of people who are not very educated on pleasure and sex education, etc., may think that the sex is over when the man has an orgasm, which we all know if you watch my videos isn't true. I can see their point, but I don't think that it takes into account the society that we live in. Someone said shape matters. I think they're talking about girth here, not exactly size, because a large size isn't automatically a good thing. True. Personally, I have this weird hang up where I feel like hung guys don't exert enough effort because they think having a big pee is the end all for lovemaking. Oh, that's really interesting. So it's like, as long as I have a large schlong, then I am a gift to your universe regardless, and I'm not going to put as much effort in. So that is an interesting way to look at it. But also, if these large hung penis owner people grew up watching porn and thinking, oh, if I do this with my penis, then the woman's going to be like, even though we know that that is mostly acting and it's not realistic. So if they're modeling what the porn long schlong stars are doing, then this would make sense. This would explain that lack of care. And the same person from the one that and this was a response, by the way, to the first one that I read. And that person said to this comment about shape mattering, I didn't say it's automatically a good thing. I said, all else considered, size makes a difference. That's it. I would assume, I don't know this person, but I would assume that this person most likely is able to experience very intense pleasure from their internal clitoris slash G spot slash A spot, etc. Because if size matters that much to that person, which is totally valid, it's possible that they don't require as much external stimulation in order to have pleasure. I don't know, but that's what it seems like. I get the low effort guys, but I gotta say, I haven't seen a huge dick I didn't want to try. Okay, that I can't relate to, but all power to you, because I hear a lot of people say that sometimes when it's too big, like that one episode of Sex and the City, that could be a little bit scary. And if that person who has a long schlong isn't very good at foreplay and making someone feel comfortable and allowing the vajayjay to expand when aroused so that they can accommodate the long schlong. Long schlong sounds funny. I could see how that could be a painful and uncomfortable experience that would lead to fake O's. And I talked about this in a recent video, but from 2019, it looks like approximately 56 to 57% of women have faked a big O at least once, which I want to change. I often wonder why men don't all have giant dongs. It seems like the selective pressure would be on making human dicks huge. Sexual selection means that a hammer is going to guarantee a guy more opportunities to smash and many more repeat customers. You'd think the little ones would have been weeded out of the gene pool by now. Okay, I thought I would read that comment because it's interesting, but it definitely isn't answering my question. This person said, "How so, though? It wasn't long ago that people married as virgins and the wife had to put up with whatever turkey slapper she got." Oh my God. Turkey slapper? That's a new one. That's a new one. Someone said I wouldn't even say size somewhat matters. I would say it barely matters. The only time I've had a problem with the size of a man's dick is when it was so big that it hurt, and that's no fun. I've never had a dick too small to pleasure me. Probably related to the shallowing I was telling you about before. In fact, men with smaller dicks tend to be better at sex because they focus more on foreplay, how I'm feeling, and the whole experience. Men with big dicks think that sex can just go in and out over an hour, 10 minutes, and that's enough to satisfy a woman because their dick's so big. In fact, I don't think I've ever been satisfied by a man with a huge dick. So obviously these people are speaking based on their personal experience. They're not speaking based on research. Everything I said at the beginning of this video is based on research and based on knowing the anatomy of a vulva owner. Whereas, of course, on Reddit, you're going to be getting very one-sided perspectives, but I figured I would read and see what's on there. You know what I'm saying? Someone said, I've had guys of all sizes that have been bad and men of sizes that have been good. It's mostly about the foreplay and how much the man values the pleasure of the woman. If they do that, the size doesn't really matter. Otherwise, it's going to hurt if it's big and he doesn't care about foreplay, which is bad, which we already covered. So yeah, that's what I saw on Reddit. So I hope that you learned something new. That was all I could find in a short period of time on Reddit, but I'm sure there's a lot of other people that don't agree with me. But let me know your thoughts below. Which side are you on? Well, thank you so much for watching this Dr. Sonya Maya psychology video of the week. If you like sexual health content, make sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe, turn on bell notifications. I will continue to remind everybody that you deserve pleasure. Make pleasurable decisions and decisions because you deserve it, and I'll see you next time.
By the way, this Snapchat filter makes it so much easier to see if there's something in your teeth. I would even argue easier than a mirror.